Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Kiera, and I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos. We'll do that at the end. So today we're going to be talking about The Legend of Korra. If you could not tell from the title of this video, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm reading off my laptop, so don't worry about any of that. Yeah, so let's just dive right in, shall we? This is my intro. In defense of Korra Sato, I'm aware it's Korra of the Water Tribe, but you know, her and Asami, we all know that they're gonna get married, and so we're just gonna, can you see any of this? Yeah, so let's just like get that out of the way right off the bat, okay? I'm not the first to make this video, and chances are I won't be the last, but I just felt the need to make this video because for years I've seen so much hate and disgust and like kind of like discarding of Korra from the Avatar: The Last Airbender fan base, and some people who aren't even fans of the franchise, they just like to hate on Korra. I decided to make this video because I was like, you know, I've had enough, but I kind of noticed that the world is kind of waking up to the world of Legend of Korra and seeing that like, hey, wait guys, this is like actually a good show. Yeah, we was trying to tell y'all that, but y'all didn't want to hear it. But now it's fine. You've caught up. You've caught up with the times. I mean, honestly, and looking back, everybody that had hate against Legend of Korra in its prime, everyone's into Invincible, everyone's into the boys. Well, let me tell you something. This man pulled literal oxygen. Pulled the literal oxygen. Just straight out of the Earthquake's lungs. Killed her. On the Nickelodeon. On the Nickelodeon, this man suffocated this woman using air bending. She imploded herself. Just straight up gone. Just gone. And y'all were saying, oh, we want dark and edgy shows. You weren't ready for dark and edgy. You had it. You had dark and edgy and you squandered it. You didn't deserve Korra. Well, now we're going to talk about it, okay? So let's get into it. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I was on board straight from the start. I mean, I was a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched it when it was airing. I was a little late. I came in season 3. And then if you know anything about how television worked before streaming services, you just kind of watch the reruns in whatever order that they ran them in. So I ended up watching the series in bits and pieces. I don't think I actually watched the series in order until it came on, like, I think it was like Prime, and I watched it, and I watched it in order. But yeah, so I was there. The movie that we don't talk about, saw that too. So when Legend of Korra came out, I was hesitant, but like I was with, you know, a lot of other people. I was gonna give it a try because Avatar was so good. It's coming from the same people. Why wouldn't Legend of Korra be good too? So I was sad. I was sad for episode 1, and I really did like that she looked like me. I enjoyed Korra. I saw myself in Korra very much so. I did enjoy the first episode, and I think I watched like the first few episodes, and then I kind of fell off because like a lot of us, I was having a hard time dealing with the fact that like Aang was dead. And they let us know right off the bat. Like, I think Avatar has such a unique pitfall in the sense that in order for them to continue their story in a wider sense, they have to kill off the titular character of the previous series because that's the only way it works. Avatar works because the Avatar spirit goes into another person. So for Legend of Korra, for Korra to exist as the Avatar, Aang had to die. So straight off the bat, we're dealing with the fact that Aang, who we just got through inviting into our homes, inviting into our rooms on a weekly basis for years, is dead. Just flat out. We didn't see anything in the in-between. He went from a 12-year-old, 112-year-old airbender to dead. A lot of us around that time were maybe between the ages of like maybe like 7, 8 to like 17. We were still kids. I mean, I know that a lot of us wanted to think that we was grown and we knew what we was doing, but a lot of us were kids and our brains weren't even fully developed yet. And not to say that some of us hadn't dealt with loss of family members, friends, pets, things of that nature, but I think we can all agree that sometimes it hits different when it's a character that you connect yourself to, a character that you invite into your home every week, into your TV, you get merch of them, you really learn to love this character and you connect with them in a way that is really kind of inexplicable, especially when you're a kid. And then to have all of that ripped away so quickly and having to literally grieve this character in a franchise that you didn't think that you were gonna ever have to. We didn't even really get any time. I think Legend of Korra came out within like the first 3 or 5 years after Avatar ended. So it's like we really didn't even get a good amount of time to process the ending of Avatar before they ended the Avatar. It sets the Avatar universe apart for sure. I mean, you spend seasons introducing the audience to these characters, endearing them to us, their strengths, their weaknesses, and if we're lucky, their personal growth. All for them to rip it away right out from under us with the next series. And in this series, they're telling you, I know Aang is dead, but it's fine because look, here's Korra was trained by his widowed wife, Katara. Isn't that fun? No, it's not. I'm devastated. I'm devastated. Yeah, that got dark. Anyway, there was definitely an adjustment period. That's not to say they didn't try to ease us into things. I mean, as I said, we got Katara in the first episode. She trained Korra in waterbending. We got mentions of Zuko being alive through his daughter Azumi in the first season. We get introduced to one of Toph's daughters in the first episode. We get a glimpse of what Toph's life was and her legacy in metal bending. I mean, metal bending is just taken off. We get to see flashbacks of the middle-aged Team Avatar when we get a bit later into the season 1 with Yukon. We see Sokka, even though he's dearly departed. And we get a vocal cameo by Dante Bosco via General Iroh. So they did try to ease us into this new universe by dropping little weavings of the past series to try to soften the blow. But again, I mean, one of your favorite characters is dead. There's not really a lot to come back from that. I feel like Korra in that way started off at a deficit because we didn't really connect with Roku. We didn't connect with Kyoshi or Kuruk or Yang Chen because we were introduced to them as Aang was. So we're connecting with Aang first. We didn't see Roku grow up. We didn't see Kyoshi grow up. We saw Aang grow up. So it's really a unique issue that Korra now is having to come off the heels of Aang. And I think that showed in the viewership, in the reception. And yeah, so let's talk about that. So yeah, I tuned out season 1 after the first few episodes, but I tuned back in near the end of season 3, and then I came back in the end of season 4. I was in school and everything was crazy. I think at that point it was airing online, so that was also harder to view. Around when the series ended is when I decided to binge it. I want to say that was around like 2016, 2017 is when I decided like just to binge the whole series because I was like, you know, I'm hearing good things about it. Let me see. And I was blown away. This series was so good. So good. I wouldn't expect any less though. Again, coming from the same creators that made Avatar, it was gonna be a good series. And I think some of you need to learn the difference between grief and bad television because I think there is a major disconnect here. Korra was not bad television. It just wasn't. Given the fact I did my best after seeing how deep it went to avoid a lot of the hate and the just straight up Korra bashing on the internet, I thankfully have spared most of my mental health in that regard. Twitter was a crazy space back then. Now it's not even Twitter, so yeah. Obviously, it still pops up in my timeline more often than I'd like. Again, though, I am seeing a shift of a newer generation, of a newer group of Avatar fans flooding to the series, praising Korra, so I'm glad that she's getting this resurgence because she really deserves it. People were ripping this girl apart because she wasn't Aang, because she was a girl, because she was melanated, because she was flawed. They hated her so much for any reason and no reason at all. What did she do? And really, honestly, it's selective outrage. I mean, honestly, looking back, The Legend of Korra taps into so many important topics. The dangers of radicalism, indoctrination, distortion of culture, trauma, PTSD, improper and unchecked power imbalances. And though those themes span throughout several seasons, really you can also just see all of those themes in season 2 alone. And if that's not the benchmark of a really amazing series that you're able to fit all of that in one season, I don't know what is. And I know a lot of people don't like season 2, but I think it's just because there's not as much fighting. It's a bit slower paced. There's a lot of information thrown at us. I think that they really used season 2 to flesh out the world of Avatar because we didn't know much about the Avatar spirit at all. So they took it up as an opportunity to do that, to took it as an opportunity to learn a bit more about the spirit world, took it as an opportunity to expand on the water tribes, which we heard so much about in Avatar, visited, but we really didn't get the history and culture of them. We got that more of the Fire Nation and even the Earth Kingdom. I really did enjoy getting to learn more about the water tribe in this season because personally, one of my favorite tribes, the southern tribe down. We see Korra learn about the hard truths and low points that come with being the Avatar, even in a world that doesn't want you and claims to not need you. Everyone likes to say that Korra can't fight. Everyone likes to say that Aang would wipe the floor with Korra, and honestly, that is just factually not true. She's a master of all elements by the time we actually meet her, except for one, which is airbending. I'm tired of the lies, people. The lies that Korra is not an amazing bender. The lies that Aang would have wiped the floor with Korra, that's a lie! Are you absolutely kidding me? I love Aang, I do, but how sexist do you have to be to say that Korra wouldn't have been able to wipe the floor with Aang? You have to look at her as a person who is literally trained in 3 of the 4 elements for the better part of a decade, day in and day out, and compare her to someone who's only been practicing all but one element for barely even a year. I don't even really like to compare the two because, to be honest, they're 2 completely different avatars, 2 completely different fighting styles, and slightly differing objectives and viewpoints, so really the comparison here is pointless. Many like to say that Korra was worse than Aang or any bender from the OG series simply because she lost a lot, and to that I say, many of the big fights we see Korra have, she's fighting solo, one-on-one, or with some form of handicap, whereas with Aang, for the most part, we see him fighting with his crew. One of the main times we see him fighting solo being the finale fight against the big bad of the entire series. If you see my Azula video, you know why I use quotes. To comet-charged Ozai. Not to mention, nearly every major threat Korra has faced was the strength of Ozai at the comet or greater. I don't think it's fair to compare Aang's fighting style with Korra's or Aang's fighting ability with Korra's. Aang fighting against what? A season 1 Zuko, Azula, I don't know, Fire Nation soldiers, Dai Li agents, and some other random low-level threats. The 2 pictures are not the same. I don't know, let's see, a bloodbender that could take bending away, a dark avatar that can control spirits and apparently destroy past avatar lives forever? Okay, a fanatical extremist group with lava and combustion benders that have the ability to force the avatar into the avatar state and steal the air from your lungs and fly. That's just to name a few of their skills. And finally, a tyrannical dictator who is proficient in metal bending with the full force of the Earth Kingdom's army and the ability to harness raw spiritual energy, powerful enough to rip a new spirit portal into existence. I don't think we can compare the 2, guys. You see? Do you see how much worse that sounds? I mean, just look at this fight in season 3. They literally have Korra bound and shackled, okay? Bound and shackled to make this even a close fight. Even then, she gives Zahir a run for his money. I have no doubt if she were free, oh, but he would have been cut. Because she's a master, it doesn't mean that she's a master in street fighting. For example, we see Katara learn waterbending throughout Avatar: The Last Airbender, learning from scrolls, but then also using applications of those base forms in fights against people with other elements, against earthbenders, against firebenders. She's constantly pulling from other bending styles and incorporating them into her own. And we hear Iroh talk a bit about this when he teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning. But it really is so important that she is learning how to waterbend as she is literally fighting for the fate of the world with the Avatar, because it really breaks her from the restrictions of such a regimented form of bending, as all forms of bending are very, like, you know, it's similar to martial arts where you have specific movements, but when you incorporate the movements of others, you can increase your power, you can increase your creativity and your abilities, and we see that in Katara throughout the series. One of the only people to really be able to come up against one of the most powerful benders that we come across in the series of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is Azula. We see Azula be very proficient in bending, but she also is very regimented, very structured, very disciplined, which isn't bad, but her fighting style is very much structured in what we see similar in Korra, where she is very formal in her fighting. She hasn't really been out in the world that much to be fighting against people who aren't necessarily going to adhere to the rules. of play. For example, we see Katara in her youth fighting literal soldiers while learning and training in waterbending, which helped tremendously to shape her style. She's unconventional in her bending, adaptive, which is why it's believable to us as the viewer by the end of season 1 that she is able to go toe-to-toe with Pakku, and even more believable to us by the end of the series that she is able to waterbend away an entire warship and defeat one of the most formidable benders we have ever seen in the series in an Agni Kai during a comet. As we've established, Korra grew up in a compound, fighting against masters and trainers who would stop if she hit the ground too hard or if she faltered in a technique or looked as though she just needed a little bit of a breather, because she was the Avatar and because they were training her in the elements. They weren't fighting her. Sparring partners that fight with a code, that fight with respect. Adversaries don't do that, and in the words of Elastigirl, they will kill you. They don't care that you're children. Korra quickly discovers this. There is definitely a learning curve, and since we're on the topic of bending, I will also say, let's be realistic, Korra is fighting against things that we can assume she's never really been exposed to up to this point, such as blood bending, the constant looming threat to have her bending taken away. I'm not sure that Aang ever had to face that because at his time, he was the only person who could do that. But remember, for Korra, her entire personality is being the Avatar. It has been since she was 3. All she's ever wanted to be is the Avatar, and to learn that it could be taken away by some elusive threat who has shown he has the actual ability to do it with no real way to undo the deed yet had to be absolutely terrifying. It was a major crisis of identity, but let's get back into the fighting. Korra, I feel, is one of the most skilled benders that we see across the series. And that is not to say that there aren't benders that are better than her, because there are. I'm not sure how or why people think that Aang would have fared better against Amon or any of Korra's threats when a fully grown Aang could barely contain Yakone. His solution to stopping him was to go into the Avatar state and literally take his bending away. And we saw how that turned out. Okay? Don't we just love avatars making problems for the next avatar? It's just a pattern at this point. It's a requirement of the job, actually. I think she's a very powerful waterbender. We just don't see her bend that much because she prefers fire, which is more explosive, more fiery, that matches her personality. I know I'm skipping over a lot, but we can't analyze every fight. So I'm just gonna touch on what is possibly my favorite fight throughout the entire series of like the Avatar Legends verse, and it falls just shy of the Agni Kai for me because I just feel like visually the Agni Kai is just so beautiful that I don't know that I can ever really truly put something on top of that, which is for me it's Korra's fight with Zahir in season 3. Korra's fight with Zahir in season 3 in the finale. Oh my gosh, y'all can't sit here and tell me. Do you know when I see people talk about Korra can't fight, they always show her fighting Kuvira, fighting Amon, or fighting Unalaq, fighting Unavatu and losing. They never show her fight with Zahir because she was giving the man the business. She was yeah, she was doing the thing. The girl was fighting. It was getting serious. Wipes out the entirety of the Red Lotus while she is chained with platinum chains in a cave with metallic poison coursing through her veins, trying to force her into the Avatar state, ripping the chain from the ceiling. Do you understand how strong of an airbender she has to be to bend away lava and to send it back his way? This man, look at this man's face, genuine fear. Genuine fear for his life right now. He said, what the heck was the Una reverse on that? and proceeds to battle Zahir while simultaneously fighting imminent death and succeeds in taking him out with the help of the airbenders, which, oh yeah, did I forget to mention that Korra's decision to leave the portals open in season 2 during harmonic convergence helped to repopulate the entire air nation. And I mean, Korra is absolutely giving this man the business, throwing entire cliffside waterfalls worth of water at him, shooting fire from her feet to fly to keep up with him because he unlocked the power of flying, if we skipped over that as well. Having such precision even in such a state where she's literally dying, all while still having chains on her, mind you. And to be honest, I think this is one of the last huge displays of Korra's bending that we see, which I think is by design. After this, we definitely see her a bit more subdued, dealing with the trauma of being kidnapped, poisoned, almost dying, suffocated. She struggles with the realities of what it will mean for her to truly be the Avatar, to place herself in the center of every conflict, no matter the cost. She runs, just as Aang did, for 3 years actually to be exact, struggling to heal herself, to find herself, to find a world that makes sense without her holding this title of Avatar. But this will be challenged apparently in Seven Havens, which I'm excited to see. Even though Korra will be dead, I'm very sad about that. So next, let's just talk character development right now, okay? Like, who is Korra? Who are you? Over the years, I've seen that one of the main points that a lot of people like to bring up when they bring up their dislike or their hate of Korra or criticisms of the series is that Korra is just an unlikable character. She's too brash, she's too abrasive, she's too headstrong, but that's kind of the point, guys. That's her character. That's her journey. Just as Aang's was to gain some courage, step into his power the only way the Avatar could to end this 100-year war. No one hated Aang because he fled conflict so hard he ended up frozen in an iceberg for 100 years, leaving the door wide open for an all-out war to be waged against the world. A world void of its Avatar. Why? Because we all understood that he was a kid. Korra was a kid, y'all. I don't know how else to say. Korra was a literal child. I mean, she's a teenager. One who's been sheltered from the world. And unlike Aang, who had seen more of the world by the time he was 12 than Korra had probably seen by the end of the series even, she was sheltered. She'd been locked in a compound for nearly a decade. As hinted in the show and later confirmed in the comics, Korra barely interacted with people her own age. They were so strict at the compound. Training with the masters of the elements with the White Lotus until she escaped at 17 to see the real world. Like, imagine, they weren't even really trying to let her leave then. She had to escape. Katara kind of being like, yeah, girl, I'm gonna let you go. These people are too strict around here. There's no telling how the equalist movement would have unfolded had she not left when she did. Korra would barely interact with people that weren't guardians of her, whose job it was to train her, keep her safe. Even her parents hadn't been allowed on the compound without a scheduled visit, which is just wild to me. He's like, can I see my child? No, the Avatar is busy. Her social skills may have been lacking, but in my opinion is more than understandable. She has spent almost the entirety of season 1 getting her sea legs. The girl ain't never seen outside for real. Imagine stepping outside and the first person you encounter is a faceless figurehead of a larger movement that can take people's bending away and whose operation is funded by one of the wealthiest individuals in the city. Like, what do you even do to that, bro? I just wanted to get some noodles. Like, this girl was broke. This girl had to eat fish out of the lake. Like, are you... I don't even know what to... Let's review. You take a person who's been sheltered from the world their entire life, told that they are destined for greatness from a young age, and are formed, crafted, and honing their skills until near mastery. In the world of Avatar, with those circumstances, you get one of two results. Azula and Korra. See what I'm getting at here? People are so quick to write both of these characters off without taking into account what they've actually been through. As if it doesn't factor into their overall story when that is literally all it does. So much so, Korra's past quite literally comes knocking at her door in season 3 when the Red Lotus attempt to kidnap her for the second time in an effort to end the Avatar cycle permanently. The first time being when she was a child, Sokka, Zuko, Tonraq being kind of like a council and agreeing like, yeah, we need to have her in the compound surrounded by the White Lotus, protected while she, you know, strengthens her bending because these people are trying to kill this literal child. Ultimately, when we meet her, Korra is excited and ready for action, evidenced in the first episode, causing thousands in property damage just right off the bat. Quick, easy, 100 grand just gone. Getting arrested in less than 2 hours of entering Republic City. Sure, she's a bit brash, a bit reckless, her bending, especially in public, but it really probably only seemed jarring to us because in Avatar, Aang and his avatarness was kept secret to nearly comedic extents. Nearly the entirety of season 1 and most of season 3, Aang had to keep himself and his bending hidden for his safety, for the success of his return, and to put an end to the war once and for all. Only ever revealing himself when his back was against the wall, so it very well could be off-putting for the audience to see Korra so blatantly display her avatar abilities just the first chance she gets in public, as she did in the first episode.
Did she just earthbend?
Can she firebend too?
Could she be?
I mean, the first scene that we see of her in the series is her bending 3 of the 4 elements and saying that she was the Avatar, and we just gonna have to deal with it. And we proceeded to deal with it for 4 seasons. Yeah, girl.
Korra, please come in here.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
For who she is, we have to meet Korra as she is in season 1. She has to be flawed in order to have room to grow.
Love to knock me off this platform with some water bending, huh?
I'm seriously thinking about it.
This is what's wrong with the city! Benders like this girl only use their power to oppress us!
What? I'm not oppressing anyone. You're oppressing yourself.
That didn't even make sense!
And even by the end of the series, she isn't really out of the woods yet. At the end of season 1, we see that Korra's kind of grown to be a bit more empathetic, not only with non-benders, but with individuals like Tarlok and Noatak that can be shaped into weapons, into corrupt politicians with less than pure agendas, symbols of unrest and possibly hate. To see the underlying message and its importance in the world of Avatar, which is that non-benders deserve to be seen and heard just as much as their bending counterparts. Korra learns how to connect with her truest self, finally connecting with her spiritual side and past lives, something she has never done until this point, something Aang had to do at the end of season 2 to regain access to his avatar state. At the end of season 2, we're coming off the heels of Korra helping the 2 water tribes navigate the end of a brewing war, a war her family was at the center of. And we see Korra expand her skills of conflict resolution and crisis management. We see her learn more about the Avatar spirits and its origins. We see her really accept her role as the Avatar and what all of that comes with not just the bending and the fighting, but the social and the political and spiritual importance of it now as well. We see Korra grow to understand it more, only to have it then immediately ripped away, more or less. In the very same breath when Unavatu destroys her connection with her past lives, which is, I don't know, just a really important part of being the Avatar. At the end of season 3, we see Korra make what might be the ultimate sacrifice, which is saying something given that this girl has lost her bending before, her connection to her past lives. We see her lose her sense of self in real time, autonomy of her own body, loss of her self-reliance and independence, core parts of her character now ripped away by a man on a mission to destroy the Avatar cycle, right off the heels of one of the greatest feats she's completed, one of the greatest feats in centuries, the return of the Avatars. Wow, the return of the Airbenders. I was reading and still read it wrong, y'all. But all of this leads to the epic conclusion of season 4, facing off against an authoritarian, ultranationalist, militarized dictator with the power of spirit-vine energy, Kuvira. We see Korra battle her PTSD throughout this entire season and face her tragedies head on. We see her reconcile that, yes, those terribly tragic things happen, but that she can come back stronger and she does not have to navigate those challenges alone. And she's able to see Kuvira without condemning her. She is able to empathize with her adversary in pursuit of the truth and balance as her duty as the Avatar. One of the greatest examples of growth and character development I think that we see from Korra is the moment in season 4, episode 6. I've seen plenty of people quote this episode to talk about the fight, and they say how Korra got wrecked, and I think they've missed the point entirely. Korra doesn't want to have this fight. Korra doesn't lose this fight with Kuvira, at least not in the way that we see or think. She lost the fight before it even began. Similar to Aang in Day of Black Sun, it was his first major fight back. He was going to face down the Fire Lord and end the war right then and there. Comment now moot. It didn't happen that way, did it? Day of Black Sun was ultimately a failure. Aang simply wasn't ready to face off against the Fire Lord. Heck, he hadn't even learned firebending yet. Do we all forget that in the beginning of season 3, Aang barely just grasped the concept of earthbending? I mean, he was good, but it was more than that. Mentally, Aang wasn't ready. He just nearly died in the crossroads of destiny. He was reeling, dealing with the fact that he had just almost died, that he had failed so spectacularly in his mind. And he ran away again in the first episode of season 3 thinking he was an unworthy avatar. He, much like Korra did several times in her series, was suffering through a crisis of identity. He felt lost. He felt like he was failing. He felt he let everyone down for struggling with the impossible. Being the avatar while also growing up and learning yourself and being a kid with the weight of the world on your shoulders, with all these adults and grown people looking at you to solve the world's problems. But with the full scope of Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 3, we see this low point in Aang's journey was necessary. He needed to understand what was truly at stake here. He needed to understand that these people were willing to kill him to keep power. That him going down, dying, at the end of Season 2 didn't have to be viewed as a failure, but that they could use this to their advantage. To take time to plan a stronger, smarter plan now that the Fire Nation thought that they'd won, had revealed some of its hand. By him staying hidden, it let Team Avatar keep the advantage. Now, jumping back to Korra, she had just gone through this very same plight for the last 3 years in her series. Between the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, it's been 3 years. She had just closed the final chapter of that particular book the episode before, getting what remained of the poison out of her system, what remained of Zahir's influence for her, for the most part, out of her system. Finally able now to reconnect her Avatar spirit after 3 years.
That fight is over. Release the fear.
She goes straight from this to battle with Kuvira, who she doesn't even really want to fight to begin with, wanting to settle things peacefully without conflict, going so far as to say that she doesn't think it's going to need to come down to a fight because she thinks Kuvira can be reasoned with. I mean, Kuvira saved her father's life at the end of season 3, so obviously Korra thinks that Kuvira can be reasoned with and things can end peacefully without conflict. And obviously, Kuvira is very receptive to this.
I want to fix this.
You can. Go into the Avatar state and demolish her army. Remove Kuvira from power once and for all.
Fighting is something the old me would do. That always made things worse. Let me talk with Kuvira. Maybe I can reason with her.
Kuvira doesn't listen to reason.
This is when Korra loses the fight. Not on the battlefield, but in her mind before, when she decides that she doesn't want to fight Kuvira. She doesn't need to fight Kuvira. She can resolve this conflict peacefully. She even goes so far as to say she isn't ready to fight, let alone to really and truly use the Avatar state as so many people are demanding of her, stating that fighting is something the old Korra would do. She wasn't entirely wrong on that front, actually, and the agreement just went a little bit off the rails. Sue and her twins jacked up the deal. That's what happened. That's all there is to it, but ultimately it wouldn't matter. When the kids were sent to find Korra in crisis, they weren't really out searching for Korra. They were searching for the Avatar.
I can't even go into the Avatar state.
Please, Korra. The world needs you back.
In season 4, Korra is forced to fight because of these circumstances with Kuvira before she's well and truly ready. But hey, that's life, right? But people are missing the growth here, the development. Korra does not want to fight. Something season 1 Korra would have had more than a difficult time accepting or believing was actually the right way to go about things. I mean, the first day out, this woman literally said, Benders aren't oppressing you. You're oppressing yourselves. Like, sis, whoa, you don't even know what's going on here. You just got here. Just look here. Let this have been a blast of fire. Kuvira would have been as crispy as snap, crackle, and pop. If Korra wanted her dead, she'd be dead. One thing I think I can agree with the Korra haters and the people who criticize the show on is that there's just no recreating the synergy of the OG team Avatar, of the gang. You just can't do it no matter what you do. I mean, look at the Netflix live action. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. That's gonna be an entirely different video. That thing that none of us mention anymore. Look at that. You think that's synergy? The OG team Avatar, the OG gang just can't be recreated. It was lightning in a bottle. It's irreplicable, and yet they keep trying. I'll be the first to say, in the name of comparisons, Korra's team Avatar was a disaster. There was hard-earned rhythmic synergy, a whole lot of romantic tension, and corporate and political espionage sprinkled throughout and often at play. They weren't really a team, I feel. They were more like a group of fairly skilled fighters marching towards the same objective and goal most of the time. In their defense, there was no 100-year war like looming in the background, hinging on the fact that they worked together and helped this man learn bending so he could defeat the Fire Lord, with the undeniable reality that if they lost the fight of their lives, the world would plummet into 100 more years of darkness. Except actually that kind of did happen in season 2 with the whole harmonic convergence thing, and dang it, Bolin and Mako, you had one job! I fully blame the destruction of the past lives on the Avatars on Mako and Bolin. Yes, Unalaq ultimately dealt the final blow and did the deed, but Mako and Bolin all they had to do at Korra's request was keep 2 waterbenders out of the spirit world, and they failed spectacularly. They failed in spectacular fashions. Korra was literally fighting the spirit of darkness reincarnated into a dark avatar who was her uncle, and y'all couldn't handle 2 benders? While this girl was trying to prevent the emergence of 1,000 years of darkness? For real's sake! Literally. Korra's support system in her team, in her surrounding mentors and group, isn't really there. Team Avatar was there for Aang. Let him know that yes, he was the Avatar, but they also let him know that they saw him as a person. Showed him compassion for his struggles, even if they could never really understand them. Korra doesn't really have that, at least not to that level. I think maybe the closest is Tenzin, and that's understandable given his father was the Avatar. He probably would have the most to understand out of everyone what she's going through because he had to witness his father going through it. There's no one that she can really feel that she can talk to, not even her past lives at this point, and she has to question, does anyone actually see her as Korra, like just Korra, or does everyone see her as the Avatar, as what she can do of who she is, the vessel? I think this is one of the reasons she only writes to Asami during her recovery between seasons 3 and 4, other than the fact that they were gay for each other and they're gonna get married and they're yeah.
Dear Asami, I'm sorry I haven't written to you sooner, but every time I've tried, I never knew what to say. The past 2 years have been the hardest of my life. Even though I can get around fine now, I still can't go into the Avatar state. I keep having visions of Zahir and what happened that day. Katara thinks a lot of this is in my head, so I've been meditating a lot. But sometimes I worry I'll never fully recover. Please don't tell Mako and Bolin I wrote to you and not them. I don't want to hurt their feelings, but it's easier to tell you about this stuff. I don't think they'd understand.
Asami cared for her while she was injured from Zahir, unable to do much for herself so soon after the battle, and Asami had seen her at her lowest. No past lives, no Avatar state, no ability to bend, no ability to walk. Korra was a version of herself even she hadn't seen, even she was having trouble recognizing. And yet Asami let her know that she'd be there for her come hell or high water. Asami, who was running a multi-billion-dollar company, said, "I will drop everything to if you just need me, just holler."
Wait, are you sure you don't want some company in the Southern Water Tribe? I'm happy to come with you.
No, I appreciate it, but I'll only be gone a couple of weeks.
This girl was down bad. How do y'all say that there was no development? Who says that? That is very much beyond friendship activities, okay? She was a person to Asami, someone more than what she could do as the Avatar. But again, this fight with Kuvira was necessary to highlight the changes we see in Korra from season 1 to now. We see her actively have an episode of PTSD while in the Avatar state, ultimately leading to her losing the fight against Kuvira. And later in the series, we see her come back stronger than she was before, having faced Zahir and confronting her past demons in order to free herself from the now metaphorical shackles as they were weighing her down spiritually and mentally. She reaches such a level of oneness with herself that by the end of the series, she is able to bend pure spiritual energy so strong it rips open a new spirit portal, equivalent to Aang energy bending the Fire Lord in the series finale. For Aang, it was meant to mark the moment he finally accepted and stepped into his role as Avatar. And for Korra, it feels like it was the moment she realized being the Avatar was far more than fighting, more than the elements she could bend. It was the ability to understand, to empathize, and humanize even the most horrid and heinous adversaries she could possibly face. Learning that everyone is worth fighting for, no matter how far gone they may seem. And hey, maybe I'm missing the mark here, maybe I'm seeing something that isn't there, but that's what I'm getting from this. Now let's talk a bit about Korra's legacy. Seven Havens, Spirit Portal, etc., etc. Call it what you want, but you can't call her bro! By the end of her life, whatever that ends up being, we will see, I'm sure. My good sis Korra has reshaped the entire geography of the world and is still getting blamed for things she probably didn't do even in death. I mean, Roku was literally able to stop the 100-Year War in its tracks multiple times and didn't because he didn't want to kill his friend. And I don't see people hating on this man nearly as much as they hate and blame Korra for things she largely had little control over. I mean, even Roku says this to Aang in season 3, like, yeah, my bad, bro. If Kyoshi was goated for making an island, where does this put Korra status-wise? Like, not forgetting the fact that my good sis literally created a new spirit portal? No one is doing it like her. They just aren't. And I'm saying, like, this is Korra at 17 and 21. Like, this girl, I can't imagine how much stronger she gets. I just have to say that I am so excited to see a bit more of Korra's story via Seven Havens, though I am admittedly going to be sad that she'll be dead. Hopefully we'll get the Avatar The Last Airbender treatment and we'll get comics and some movies, you know, filling in a bit of the gaps between the end of the series to her death. To wrap this video up, I suppose I'd like to say that if you haven't really made up your mind about giving The Legend of Korra a chance, please do. It's an amazing show. It tackles so many themes never done, not only on Nick, but in children's television at its time. I mean, we've had so many others come after this. We've had more LGBTQ representation, more realistic portrayals of trauma and PTSD. We've had cultural conflicts and female protagonists. We've had so much more of that in animated spaces since this show, but you have to remember that the time period that it was released, a lot of that was not the case, at least not to this level. So much kudos to the teams that worked on the series, because I'm sure many of you have heard this by this point, but they never knew if they were getting a next season until season 3. Each season had to be a capsule in and of itself. That's probably why the pacing is a bit strange, but I mean, they just did an amazing job given the circumstances, especially the network shifting the show to digital just for no reason, just because, I don't know why. It was way ahead of its time, but not really. I don't really think it was ahead of its time. I just think people weren't ready for it yet, given the reasons that I stated earlier in this video, but also, I mean, it was one of the first of its kind, so it's going to be a bit new for people, and we could see a bit of that hesitance, I'm sure, in the viewership as well. But again, I really enjoyed the series. I think it's an amazing watch. And for those of you that have made up your mind about Korra, I challenge you to rewatch the series and through different eyes, or watch the series if you haven't even watched it through. After all, you've made it to the end of this video, haven't you? Give it a chance. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you made it to this point, yeah, thanks again for watching. If you like this video, I have a few more that's probably going to be listed somewhere around here. I did a video on Bianca Barclay. From Wednesday, I did a video on Disney's representation. I did a video on Azula. I think I released it last month, depending on when this video comes out. But if you really like this video, I have a couple of more like this and more coming. Mel from Arcane is coming up next. So if you really want to dive into that character, y'all better tune in. I'm sorry that every time I film you can only see the lower half of Mel. I promise it's a full poster. It's just the way that the angles gotta go. You ain't gonna see good sis. I'm so sorry. You can see her there, can't you? Nope, that's off frame. How unfortunate. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you've seen Legend of Korra, what maybe was your favorite season, your favorite scene. And yeah, I guess I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Flameo, my good Hotman.